new coin just figured out how to hijack the mining power.
A $6 billion blockchain was attacked by a $300 million blockchain.
Qubic was successful in gaining 51% of the hash rate on Monero.
The world's largest privacy-focused cryptocurrency just got dominated by Qubic.
Qubic. Dogecoin next.
No one can really stop it. Is this one of the most genius crypto growth hacks we've seen? Or is this one of the most dangerous proof of work attacks we've seen in nearly a decade? Let's dive straight into this drama. Monero, some would say the leading privacy coin or the reigning privacy coin, versus Qubic, this AI-centric upstart with a really wild plan. Qubic is quietly siphoning Monero's mining power with this useful proof of work. Whether this is plain brilliant or plain greedy is up to you to decide. We're gonna get takes on how Monero's community is taking this and how Qubic is even pulling this off. This isn't really your average crypto turf war. This could actually rewrite how we view and how mining proceeds into the future for proof of work blockchains. This is wild stuff. Let's start with Qubic. Now, Qubic uses the term useful proof of work, this layer 1 mining. What is useful proof of work? Before we can answer that, we have to answer what is proof of work. Proof of work, for example, is using your own electricity, your own power, computational power to complete problems, in this case, to solve blocks, to confirm transactions that fit inside of blocks, to keep these layer 1 blockchains moving, to prevent double spending, to prevent fraud, to prevent hijacking. Okay? But what is Qubic doing? Well, Qubic doesn't directly mine Qubic. They have these phases where they mine Monero, yes, XMR. And then they take that and they sell the XMR on the market for USDT, wild, creating sell pressure on Monero. And then they take that USDT that they then sold, buy Qubic tokens, and then burn those tokens, creating a scarcity decreasing supply for their own token, essentially pumping their own token while depleting another token. This is, some would say, a parasite. Monero has an orchard, a lemonade orchard, or a lemon orchard. Qubic has an orchard. Qubic goes into Monero's orchard, picks the lemons, squeezes them, gets the lemonade, sells that lemonade for cash, uses the cash to then sweeten their own batch of lemonade, and the cycle repeats. In theory, this should kill off the other orchard, while skyrocketing their sales on the other side, sweetening their own batch, perfecting their batch. This is sort of what's happening right now. Is this genius? Some would say it's genius, some would say it's not. Diehards on Monero's side definitely aren't feeling this way. Qubic uses the term useful in proof of work, right? What is useful about this? They claim that this is useful because it makes their token price go up. Sure, useful. They claim that it's useful because 50% of the time they are training AI models. Sure, useful. But siphoning and mining another currency and then selling it to then burn your own currency or make yourself better, this is interesting. We haven't really seen this, especially in a long while. Like, Qubic has maintained control at some points over 50% of the network. Over 51 in particular, and we'll get into that. It's the big deal. Qubic miners went hard on Monero's network, gaining control this summer of roughly a quarter of Monero's hash rate. We're getting to 51%. Why is this significant? Well, it's a glaring red flag for Monero. One single entity controlling even a quarter is starting to raise concerns. If they get to 51%, that's over half of the network hash rate. And that's when the dreaded 51% attack happens. What is that? That means this entity can rewrite transactions. They can double spend. They can censor transactions. They can orphan blocks. They can even, in some cases, and in some blockchains, not all, can rewrite core hardware and core software. This is not really decentralized. Community saw this and immediately hit the panic button. Check out this chart. Monero's network hash rate, or total mining power, shot up when Qubic came on the scene. Qubic's share alone went from almost nothing in May to 25% by late July. Some Monero diehards called it an attack, straight out. Thankfully, they got together, rallied the troops, and the regular miners didn't just roll over, they began a coordinated defense. Many of them pointed their rigs at one single Monero mining pool called Support XMR. It became kind of this rally point, which is pretty cool. And at one single stage, it grabbed about 30% of the hash rate to counter Qubic, basically bullying the new guy off the block. This worked for at least a moment. Monero's community didn't just stop there. They were rumored to push out a DDoS attack, distributed denial of service attack. That's basically, if you're a gamer or if you're in NFTs or crypto and you're trying to access a site, grab an NFT, you're trying to access a game server and it's overcrowded, and all of a sudden the server can't handle it anymore. There's so many different people trying to access that network, trying to access that server. People get booted off. Well, this is intentional. Distributed denial of service attacks. Multiple pings trying to access the servers from all over. Well, Qubic, remember, only really has one pool, so it's not really too crazy to push a denial of service attack. Some would say that it is because you do have to find the IPs of nodes that are running and there can be multiple nodes connected for a single pool. But in this case, it actually worked. They were able to take off 2/3 of Qubic's hashing power on Monero's network, at least in the short term. This was pretty significant, going from around 2.6 gigahash all the way down to less than 1 gigahash, 0.8 gigahash to be exact. Now, all this tug of war did have some financial side effects. While Monero's price slowly started staggering down due to Qubic selling XMR on the market for USDT, well, Qubic's price actually started going up decently. Well, of course, they were buying Qubic with the USDT that they siphoned from selling XMR, and of course, burning those Qubic tokens, and voila, their price went up. That's their genius playbook. And for XMR, this is slightly worrisome because this is constant selling pressure, especially if they can remain in control of the network or get back to 51%, community have to say. Well, XMR, of course, livid, on Reddit, were posting memes of hold the line, from like Game of Thrones to economic warfare to support XMR, let's stay together. Now remember, diamonds are formed under pressure. A similar story happened to Dogecoin, believe it or not. Dogecoin was undergoing attacks, their network was slowing down, bogging down, and Litecoin took it upon themselves to basically say, hey, let's integrate uPOW with Dogecoin. Well, it wasn't really Litecoin. Dogecoin integrated uPOW, Litecoin just enabled it, and now Dogecoin is here today. Otherwise, it might not be around. And funny enough, Dogecoin is now, technically market cap-wise, outpaced Litecoin. I have my own thoughts on that. That's a topic for another day. But back to the community's thoughts. What's going on here? Some people were saying don't get greedy and don't get tempted on Monero's side. Why would they say that? Well, Monero miners could mine through Qubic's pools to make more profit. So if you were running a business, a mining operation, sometimes this was the option. So as tempting as it is, they were trying to make sure that the Monero miners, the community, were still standing together. I'm sure some people left and mined Qubic because at the end of the day, a lot of people love money. I think that's why the majority of us now are in crypto. I wouldn't say love money, but it's definitely a path that some people have chosen for careers. I'm more of a cypherpunk myself, so I stand with Monero on this. I did mine Qubic for a long time. I'm on Qubic on Androids, on phones, until this sort of started happening around May. And now I have a lot of my hash power on XMR just for the sake of it. Whether it's gonna help or it's gonna work, I have no idea, but this is a crazy time to be living in. Honestly, as much as I hate it, I kind of love the turmoil slightly. I would like to see how this pans out, and I'm sure you guys would too. I'm going to try to keep covering this. I'll probably post some thoughts on my X account, so if you're not following me there, follow me. It's x.com/LukeWrightMain. My name with main at the end. Anyways, let's get into it. On the Qubic side, we have a lot of posts being made and a lot of support behind Qubic. Now, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of it is slightly fabricated. I saw a lot of community members saying, next up is Doge, and the guy who's getting all the impressions right now, Come From Behind is the account name, and you can check him out as well, is kind of relaying, not necessarily that we're attacking Doge, but relaying the updates related to how they're going to mine Monero, whether they're going to get 51% of the network, so on and so forth. Qubic community members are thrilled. They seem to be oblivious at the fact that they're sort of being parasitic in a way, but they call it useful proof of work. So for this example, we'll call it useful proof of work. They believe they're being useful. And to each their own, sure, they're making more money, they're making profit, they're training AI models. There might be some use case in there. But nonetheless, this is a war. This is wild. A crypto analyst, Dan, a researcher for Unstoppable Wallet, which is saying they're going to put XMR on their wallet, because XMR has been getting taken off some wallets and exchanges. That's nothing new for the XMR community. Anyway, he kind of shared a breakdown, and he put it bluntly. Monero is under attack, and it's not through bugs or exploits. It's an economic attack. Through the miners, they're not hijacking your privacy, they're buying it. Which does make sense. That line sort of gave me chills a little bit, not gonna lie. In his words, the intent doesn't matter. They're exchanging or voluntarily surrendering their network for better pay. Think about this. Would you do the same thing? I know a lot of people that would, and I know myself at some points in my life probably would as well. That's me being honest there. Today, on the other hand, we're losing decentralization, even in Bitcoin. I think Monero really had the chance to be kind of what Bitcoin was supposed to be, potentially. Whether we can understand or interpret Satoshi's original vision or not, will, to be determined. I do believe Monero still holds that cypherpunk energy, whereas today, a lot of people are here again for the profit. I'll have links to Dan's opinions as well. They're very good, you should check them out. For a brief moment, I'll just kind of post up some of the accounts that you can gather some information at, and kind of have them scroll through, while we're talking. Question. Genius or greed? Well, Qubic essentially found a way to mine one coin to pump another. Like discovering a cheat code in a video game. They turned Monero's robust mining network into kind of a value engine. Actually, they did turn it into a value engine. Now, they try to tie it into their futuristic AI, large language model tuning, training, their big data sets, which in theory is, useful. Their uPOW does work in that manner. If they were doing that 100% of the time, however, they're not. In miner's perspective, this is really tempting. In fact, it's kind of brilliant the way they can profit off of this, and sometimes 2 to 3 times more than just mining Monero alone. So I get it there. I do. It's obviously a couple days later, and there's been some confirmed rumors. So Dogecoin, rumored to Qubic said they were gonna mine Dogecoin. The same thing with Dogecoin. Well, it's technically confirmed. They voted on it in Discord. I'll post a screenshot. Cass was also in that. Why am I bringing this up now? Well, this is going to clear up probably some misconceptions for people. And, maybe I don't have it all 100%, but you guys can correct me, right? From my understanding, how this is going to work. Reminder, Qubic was mining XMR on Qubic's own pool. They were mining XMR, selling XMR for USDT, buying Qubic, burning Qubic. Now they're paying out the miners instead of burning, okay? Slightly different. Regardless, Qubic was using GPUs in their useful proof of work The useful side is obviously going to be the AI training side, whereas the more parasitic side is going to end up being the burning and selling and mining and controlling of networks, right? So XMR is ASIC resistant. The reason I threw the quotes up is because Bitmain does have miners that are like ASICs for XMR, X5s, I believe. They're out there. Anyways, Dogecoin is a script algorithm coin, right? Dogecoin actually isn't even the main script algorithm coin. For those of you who know, it's merge mined, right? So it's Litecoin that is actually the true script proof of work coin. Regardless, it shares the same network. Now, this is going to be really, really interesting, okay? And people are going to say, well, wait a second. Though XMR was CPUs, we understand how that could be controlled, but ASICs, you're never going to control the network. I will say that with Dogecoin and Litecoin, with all the merged mined stuff and everything, all the hash rate it has, it's going to be really hard to maintain any significant control of that network. I'm very confident in that. At least as of right now, right? Things can change, but I'm very confident in that. The other side of the thing is, in that poll, Caspa was there, right? Caspa's hash rate has fallen significantly. Caspa does not mine on the script algorithm. They have their own algorithm. A lot of their hash rate has fallen. It'd be way easier for them to take over Caspa than it would be for Litecoin, or excuse me, Dogecoin in their terminology. Regardless, what happens when you incorporate the greed structure, right? The profiteering structure. This is how this is working. It's not fully control of the network. It's greed. It's getting people to buy into, getting people to get into greed. How this is working is they're paying out 3 times Monero, right? So if you mine Monero on Qubic's pool versus mining Monero on any other pool, you're getting paid 3 times as much. So yes, any miner who's been in the mining game has definitely mined for profit, 100%, unless maybe 2009, right? 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. From there, it really, really turned into the ASIC era when we started getting Butterfly Labs producing ASICs, Zeus miners, Silverfish. All of these ASIC miners came onto the scene. This is our profiteering scene. This is mining for profit at larger scales. All that I'm leading into is this pay structure is really what's triggering the hash rate to come on board. If they're mining Caspa and all those hash rate and all that hash rate is sitting offline, and all of a sudden you can earn 3, 4, 5, 1, even 2 times more than what it's earning now, hash rate comes back online, right? This is interesting. Where does it go though? Where does hash rate go? Hash rate goes to Qubic. Oh goodness, here we go, right? This is really interesting because if the hash rate all goes to Qubic for the profiteering, for the 3x profit, Caspa is really at risk. A lot of people might say Caspa's not at risk. At the moment, they'd be at risk, right? Now, this is Litecoin and Dogecoin we're talking about, Doge my coins. So we're aware and so we're clear, there's really only like 5 script algorithm coins that are really merged mined across all of the main pools. And the reason I say main pools is because this is who they're going to be really competing with in terms of power share in hash rate. Via BTC, I believe, is the pool currently with the most amount of hash rate for Litecoin. And they support Litecoin, Dogecoin, Bellscoin, and a few others, right? Nonetheless, these are merged mined communities. There's over 100, well over 100 that are active today, script algorithm coins. If they can control any one of those, sure, they might be able to do it through a different pool, and they totally could, right? If a main pool is not mining, for example, let's name a coin called LAMP coin. It's a script algorithm. It's not picked up by the main pools. Now, this is an interesting take, right? If it's not mined by the other pools, but it is merge mined, this is interesting. It still shares the network hash rate that Litecoin does. Now, there's some nuances to this, and it depends who you ask and what you're looking for, right? Sometimes these coins will result to native proof of work if they're not being picked up by the big proof of work pools. Then they're at a vulnerability on the script network. Okay, but Qubic would have to target these individually. Since they're targeting Doge, and that's the one they're targeting, they have to target and try to face all of the common ones that are known. So there's the top 5, right? The top 3 is going to be Bellscoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin. Some of these, if blocks have stalling problems, will have native proof of work fallbacks. And this could help in some of those merged mine cases. For example, Bellscoin has a native proof of work fallback. So if blocks are starting to get orphaned or Litecoin ceases to start producing blocks, Bell's coin will move on. Dogecoin, however, does not. This I think is what they might be after. If they can get some of the block stalls on Litecoin, Dogecoin will cease to produce blocks entirely along with Litecoin. They can't just stop trying to produce Dogecoin blocks without stopping Litecoin blocks. So we're clear. They can get some stalls, they can fill it with inscriptions. That's a whole nother take. This is gonna be really interesting. I'm not sure what their plan is. They said it's gonna take a few months to organize things. As a script developer, I'm really intrigued now. And I say that humbly, and I say that with kind of a sorry tone in my heart that I should have cared more about the XMR thing. And I do, I really do. It's just I didn't throw out opinions. And I think this is exactly where you really need to throw out your opinions and your thoughts right away. Because if you're quiet when it's happening to somebody else, next thing you know, it's happening to you, right? When it could have been stopped with somebody else first. So how do you stop this? How do you stop profiteering? I'm using profiteering. It's probably not the correct literature to be using. Nonetheless, you stop it by getting rid of the income source. So Qubic is paying out 3 times. They're getting money somewhere to pay out this. So they're kind of like, in a way, this is a grand marketing scheme for Qubic. Some could say genius, right? Regardless, they're paying out and the money comes from somewhere. So where is this money coming from currently? It's coming from mining XMR. So if the money's coming from mining XMR, they're going to be using that to then pay out miners for whatever other coin that they're doing. And they're going to try to do the same thing with those other coins, most likely. Whether it's going to work or not, I think it's going to be a lot harder for it to work with Dogecoin because it has to go through Litecoin first in order for it to really, really work on Dogecoin, along with all those other chains. And there's so many communities in the script merge mining family where I don't think this is actually going to work. I love to see where it goes. And I want to put out a fair warning to all my other script developers out there. Just be thinking about this. I could be completely wrong with my kind of thought process behind this all. Now would be the time to start, thinking about where your pools are, how many nodes you have for these pools, and where the hash rate is going. Some of you smaller script coins might be time to try to get integrated into these mining pools like via BTC or other things. If you need contacts and you are a script coin, I'll gladly try to get you the contacts that you need to help this matter. I know I'm treating this kind of like a doomsday, at least not in my opinion right now. But nonetheless, this is exciting times. It's nice to see this rather than have the usual, I'm waiting for price to go up, right? So this is gonna be cool. I'd love to see how this plays out. I'd love to see what security measures are put in place. I'd love to see how all these communities handle this, what communities come together. I'm still mining script, still gonna mine Bell's coin, still gonna mine Litecoin, still gonna mine Dogecoin, right? And all the other ones that I can mine. Anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like to see more videos like this, or you want to hear more analysis on these topics, please be sure to follow me and write it down in the comments of what I should talk about, or if you have any thoughts, I'll try to answer them directly. For now, I'll leave you with this. XMR and the Qubic debate. Qubic only really got 28 to 35% of the hash rate. This is proven down to the math. I believe by a guy, I'm gonna pronounce his name, Shia. He's anyway, it's one of the developers or people that worked for Unstoppable Wallet, which Unstoppable Wallet I do believe is adding XMR to it. So in light of all the situation, I like that. That's good. He breaks it down. I'll give you a link to that because that came out right after, of course, I made the other portion of the video. So it's very helpful and insightful. Whereas Cointelegraph, a few other press sources, media sources were saying a few other things like 51%, but it really wasn't 51%. Regardless, there were some orphan blocks. It wasn't significant enough to really raise concerns, but again, it was a red flag when anybody's trying to do this stuff. Okay, I'm Luke. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.